I'm gonna put this court into session.
Listen, Mario, please call us up for character statements. It's the only way.
Here we have the appeal for Mr. Mario Lepat. The claim states this from Mr. Murphy Braun. My client is appealing charges he was convicted on 9/16/9/17 following a train accident he was in. My client claims he was arrested for obstruction of justice for asking to have an attorney present during the question, and then searched and convicted of other possession charges. My client seeks all charges reversed. I don't really know what reversed means, but as he should have never been searched to begin with. Mr. Brown, what are these charges?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I can't hear you.
Yep, I can't hear you there.
Sorry, I was whispering.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can't.
No.
Yeah.
Rami,
Shut up, Rami.
Hello? Can you
I
hear
can
me
hear
now?
you, Mr. Brown. What are the
Yes, Mr.
charges?
What are the charges? Possession charges. I don't know exactly which they were at this time.
Yeah, and obstruction?
And no, he was not charged with the obstruction, which is part and parcel to the case. That was
Does the
the
district
predicate
attorney have the charges?
charge that justified the search
yes,
that resulted in the
right.
other charges.
I have them right here, Your Honor. It's one times possession of controlled and dangerous.
You're
one
really
times.
You're really loud, dude.
You shut up, Rami.
What the fuck?
One times possession of controlled dangerous.
You're
One
so
times
really
possession
loud.
of a firearm class one. One times possession of crank.
Okay. Let's see, you came prepared, Mr. Braun. Would the plaintiffs like to give the opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay. If anyone can't hear me, please let me know. Your Honor, people of the court, the defendant has called for an appeal of charges for the illegal items found on his person. The defendant was found guilty of possession of a controlled substance of 1 count, criminal possession of a firearm class 1 of 1 count, as well as, possession of crack of 1 count.
I don't know.
The defendant's counsel
so
will
ugly.
attempt to spin a story of unlawful detainment, unlawful search and seizure, and a violation of the rights afforded to us as citizens of the United States.
Boo. Shut that bitch
The district
up.
attorney's office will instead prove that with irrefutable
Get her off
evidence
stage.
that the officers involved executed their duties to defend the general public with both grace and distinction for the citizens' civil rights, and in good faith and
Is she
pursuit
having
of their
a lot of
duties found the defendant in possession of these illegal items.
Hurting my
Thank you.
ears.
Yeah.
A ridiculous amount. Boo.
Mr. Braun, would you like to give your opening?
Absolutely. Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen
I
of the
have
court,
that problem. Okay.
my client, Mr. Lapeep, was simply exercising his ability as a private citizen
Right now.
to utilize the public transportation network in this city from his home in the area where this incident took place. He was riding a commuter rail and minding his own business when a tragic accident occurred involving an unrelated police pursuit. My client was taken from the wreckage, injured, and police decided they wanted to make him into some sort of suspect and question him. My client simply requested at that time that he would like to have an attorney present during questioning. For this request, my client was charged with obstruction of justice, which officers then used as a justification to search my client, whereupon he was not charged with obstruction of justice, but was charged with the possession of the materials and items which were found on his person. So the predicate offense was never charged because it was improper, thus invalidating the search. My client should have been allowed his right to have an attorney present during questioning and not charged with a crime for simply making that request. And we will demonstrate that in court here today. Thank you.
Yeah, good shit. Good shit.
Good shit, Paul. You worked this out.
You got this. You got this.
All right, would the plaintiffs like to call the first witness?
What the? F
Yeah, prosecution would like to call Bobby Smith to the stand.
What the fuck?
Mr. Smith, step forward.
I was trying to move.
Easy, Johnson.
Boo.
Oh my god, Big D, stop moving.
Get off the stage.
Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening.
Could you please raise your left hand for me, sir?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you sin?
I do.
Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
What the fuck is going on over there?
All right.
Nothing.
Please continue with the question.
Stop it.
What the fuck?
Oh my god. Wow.
All right, Deputy Smith, did you receive a call for a bank alarm being triggered on September 16th?
Keep going.
I was off duty at the time, so
wow.
I did not specifically receive the call. But there was a call for a bank robbery that day. Yes.
Okay. What did you see when you arrived on scene?
I again did not arrive to the scene of the bank robbery. I arrived to everything that happened post bank robbery.
Sorry.
Okay. Were you involved in the chase after the bank robbery?
Negative.
That motherfucker that shot
Okay.
me.
When did you show up?
Who?
I showed up when the bank robbery
Murphy.
turned into a
Get off the
shootout
stage,
inside
Bob,
of the
you
metro
suck.
station.
Make sure you
south of the
express
city.
as serve time.
Fuck Judge Kyle.
Okay.
Mhm.
What happened when you showed up to that?
Yeah, fuck Dennis Labar.
When I showed up to that, I observed multiple officers wounded,
Yeah.
cars that
Fuck
had
the
exploded,
DOJ, you guys are
and
shit.
as a result of a major train accident took place. I observed bodies of civilians, as well as helped end a shootout that took place inside of the metro with the assistance of a K-9 unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby sucks dick.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Hey, sir, can you whisper? I
Where did you find the
I can't
defendant?
hear. Do you
What's
mind
that,
I
man?
whispering,
believe the
please?
defendant was found within
we're not
the
talking,
piles of bodies that I, along with another officer and EMS, had dragged out of the tunnel system to help bring over to the pillbox hospital inside of our cruiser as well as the ambulance. So
Okay.
he was one of the victims that was chauffeured out of there by either myself or one of the cadets that is listed in the report.
Okay. Do you know what happened to him?
Generally speaking, besides just injuries from either the shootout, the train, whatever, I personally do not know what had occurred to him at the time.
Yeah, Bullboy's World.
Okay. Did you believe that he was involved in the robbery somehow?
At that time, anything was possible. He could have been, he could have not been. I treated everybody just as an injured person that was inside of the tunnels. Treated him just about the same as everyone else.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, we're in Bullboy's World now. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hey, Copper, what's going on? Whoa, what's going on, Copper? How you doing?
Hey.
Your Honor, can I call?
Yeah.
Can we do a
Bullboy's
recess? We have a
World.
couple people, including
Yeah.
the DA and
Let's
Mr.
go to
Braun. that
recess.
went out. Yep.
Robbie, shut the fuck up.
This is going
Recess
great.
agreed.
Mario, this is going great for you. I think you got this in the bag.
Rami, you outburst one more time, I'm gonna hold you in contempt. Put you in
I'm
prison
sorry,
for
yes,
2
Your
years.
Honor.
You understand me?
My apologies, Your Honor. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Rami.
fuck the judges. Yeah.
That was a short.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, fuck the bitch ass, hoe ass, trick ass,
Yeah.
Judge Kyle,
Fuck
bitch,
the DOJ.
motherfucker.
Bitch ass.
All right, I don't know
Uh,
what just happened, but I'm good now.
No, a bunch of people went down. We're waiting for others.
Oh, okay. It wasn't
I'm
just
gonna
me.
fucking
No,
kill you
no, a
right
couple.
now,
The
you
DA went
judge.
down too.
Oh god, he can't hear us. Thank God. Oh my God.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I'm gonna whip that bitch ass judge's head off.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking do a
Adrian, you
drive-by
back?
on him.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Are we
Can't
ready
wait.
to go? Is everybody here?
Yep.
Court's back in the session?
I can't wait
Okay.
tonight.
What was the last part you heard me, Braun?
I don't know. I kind of freaked out when that happened, so I don't really remember. It's talking about bringing him to pillbox.
I'm a-
Kappa.
I'm a warlord.
I shut up, chap.
Okay. Do you want me to re-ask the most latest question, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Did you believe that the defendant was involved in the robbery somehow?
At the time, anything was possible in my mind. I treated him just like I treated everyone else that was down there.
Okay.
Hey, remember they did GSR test me. Negative.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Do victims get detained for questioning in situations such as these?
At crime scenes, we detain just about everybody.
Why is that?
Yeah, and then you met him after.
Well, personally, you don't really know the whole picture until you have a conversation with everyone that was involved.
True.
And so we make it a procedure to make sure that we hold everyone or detain everyone just to make sure that we get all the ends tied up, I guess, as a form of formality.
What the fuck,
Okay.
Big D?
Did you arrest the defendant where you originally found him?
Where I originally found him, no, he was not arrested. I helped escort him down to Pillbox.
Okay. Did you GSR test him at any point?
I believe another officer had GSR tested him during that time.
Okay. Did you search him before the EMS took him to the hospital?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. When did you search him?
I searched him after I detained him outside of Pillbox.
Was he being detained or was he under arrest when you searched him?
I guess he was under arrest, right? That's what was listed in there.
What? That's why I'm asking you.
Right.
So was he under arrest?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
He was under arrest at the time that I searched him.
Okay. Is it per your SOPs that every person, victim, or criminal must be searched before entering your police cruiser?
Yes.
Was he under arrest at the point? Okay, never mind. Sorry about that. Why was he under arrest?
He was under arrest because I believed he was obstructing justice.
Why did you believe that?
I mean, several different reasons. One of the major ones was while I had him detained, the suspect refused to be searched before I placed him inside of the vehicle. After several back and forth conversations, I had decided to arrest him at that point for obstruction of justice, because I believe that he was withholding evidence related to the crime scene or just withholding evidence in general.
Anybody want Coke?
Okay. What did you find on him when you searched him?
A gun, a pistol to be specific, I believe crack, and a bottle of painkillers that are illegal in this county.
Okay. Is it illegal to have crack cocaine on your person?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't have any more questions, but I think ADA Cat has some questions for him.
Hey,
Yes.
Copper, you want?
Sergeant Smith.
How's it going?
All right. Just to continue his line of questioning here, is it illegal to have OxyContin on your person?
Yes.
Give me a sec.
Well, I mean,
Okay. Did the defendant have a weapons license?
No.
Was the weapon that he had on him registered in his name?
No.
I'm fucked up, James.
Okay. How was his demeanor when you were detaining him?
Very confrontational.
Was he screaming at you?
No. Just a lot of arguing.
Oh, fuck.
Asking for a lawyer.
What was he saying?
Initially, when I was questioning him inside of Pillbox, I wanted to see what his role was. At that point in time, I was treating him like a victim, but out of the gate, he was requesting a lawyer. At that time, he was detained, and he was allowed to have one, but didn't want to answer any questions, didn't want to help with the investigation, etc.
Right to remain silent.
If he had calmed down and simply stated that he was not involved in the situation and answered a few of your questions, would you still have arrested him for obstruction?
More than likely not.
Okay. If the defendant was not under arrest, would you still have to take him down to Mission Row since he was detained for questioning?
Yes. So, because he was requesting a lawyer and he was detained for questioning, he would have been escorted into the police cruiser, at which point in time he would have been searched and then brought down to Mission Row PD to wait for a lawyer to represent him.
Okay, so if he was not under arrest or detained, would you still have to search him to take him down to Mission Row?
If he was not under arrest or detained, I don't have any clause to search him.
Boom! Boom! Woo! God damn!
1 second here, I'm just looking at my questions.
Ah!
If he had complied with you at the hospital, would you still have needed to take him to Mission Row?
If he had complied, I believe we could have just had a interview then and there, and more than likely he would have been let go.
Okay.
Not
Did he
complying
request a
means
lawyer?
asking for a lawyer?
Yes.
Okay, was there one available?
Yes.
Do you remember which lawyer it was?
I wasn't able to check myself up until we got down to Mission Row, whereupon the suspect requested a lawyer himself.
Okay. You said that he requested it at the hospital as well, is that correct?
Yes, he requested it at the hospital.
Okay. Is it standard procedure to request lawyers to come to the hospital?
Rami, shut the fuck up.
I'm sorry.
Typically, we don't ask lawyers to come to active situations. I believe that Pillbox was under heavy duress because of the emergency situation, so I was not going to request a lawyer up to Pillbox.
Okay, so again, you would have had to have taken him to Mission Row for him to get his lawyer.
Per our SOPs, yes.
Okay. In your professional opinion and experience, was he behaving like a victim or like someone who had done something wrong?
Typically, when I interview victims, they don't ask for a lawyer before I start questioning them. So that part I found to be suspicious, yes.
Bro, this is easy.
Were the individuals in the robbery caught and arrested?
Yes.
Who were those individuals?
I believe it was Mr. Chang and one Mr.
Speculation.
Bullet.
Okay, to your knowledge, do Mr. Chang and Mr. Bullet know the defendant?
I believe there are reports of them working together. Beyond that, I have no knowledge.
Working together in what capacity?
Doing crime.
Okay.
Speculation.
Why did you take off the charge of obstruction of justice in the end?
At the end, I believe that the only obstruction, as I put it...
I'm going to stop you right there. That last question I'm going to strike off the record, and you know better than that.
Woo! Murphy, you here?
I don't.
Oh yeah, I'm
What?
here.
Okay.
Murphy.
You don't?
This is speculation, Murphy. You gotta.
No, I'm asking him why he took the charge
You
off.
specifically asked the question for him
They
to
are
bring
proving
up
my
their criminal
fucking
past.
case over there. I don't need to object to shit.
Okay,
Well, okay. Oh.
so
Brown.
what?
It's not going to happen. That's stricken off the record.
Which?
Okay, what question?
Go to the next question. The question,
What's the
that
question?
involved Mr. Mario LaPop, Mr. Chang, and the rest of that group working together, doing crime. Struck off the record.
Okay, thanks for clarification. I'm sorry, can you answer the last question I asked you again?
Can you repeat the last question?
Yeah, why did you
Let's
take
go,
off
baby!
the obstruction of justice charge in the end?
As I put it in my report, I believe the only justice that the suspect was obstructing was his own. So I didn't believe at that point that it was necessary to pursue those charges, as I felt that I would have been stacking the charges in the end.
Okay, no further questions at this time.
Dude, he's digging
I
himself
just
a
have one
hole.
question.
So the charges that are
Was
the
he
reason
facing an
got
obstruction of justice
detained.
charge before requesting an attorney?
Oh, never mind.
No.
Okay. No further questions, John.
Oh!
Take off your hat.
Boom! Boom, baby!
Easy, man. Easy.
Boom! Oh,
So is it my turn now?
shit! Nice
Y'all have any further
question,
questions for
bitch!
this witness?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Chopper, I
Mr. Brown?
want you.
Would you like to re-examine?
Yes, I would.
No, I love you.
How are you doing, Mr. Smith?
I'm doing
I
good.
want
How about
you more,
yourself?
Copper.
I'm doing quite well.
That's good to hear.
You're how long you been cop
Wow.
or an officer of the law around?
I can't say years.
So you must recite the Miranda Rights about hundreds of times by now.
Certainly.
Can you recite them for us?
Sure.
Here we go.
Your Honor,
Here we go.
do you want me to recite the Miranda rights?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do in court will be used against you.
Okay.
You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, it won't be provided
Well,
for you
check.
by the state. Do you understand your rights as I have remedy today?
I think he fucked that up.
All right, that's approximately the gist of it. I
Yeah,
suppose.
I kind of put me on the spot there.
Damn!
Right, yeah, I know, it's
Brain
tough.
fell flat.
Calm down.
Anyway, I just wanted to get that on the record. So, Mr. Smith, is it illegal to be argumentative?
Certainly not.
Is it illegal to be argumentative specifically with the police?
No, it's not.
Okay. Is it obstruction of justice to request to have an attorney present during any questioning?
No.
Okay, so why did you deem that it was obstruction of justice when my client requested to have an attorney present when you interviewed him?
Objection compound as well as asked and answered.
I am going to sustain the compound. Please, ask the question again.
Okay, in spite of the answer to your last question, why did you feel my client was obstructing justice by asking for an attorney?
I don't believe he was obstructing justice by asking for an attorney.
Okay, bear with me. You did not elucidate much on why you felt he was obstructing justice, so I want to get to the heart of that. Can you itemize some of the reasons why he was obstructing justice and why that charge was deemed necessary? It's very
Objection
important.
asked and answered.
No, it was not answered. He said
I
there were
asked
many
why he
reasons.
charged him with it.
He said there were many reasons. That is not an answer.
I want to hear this again for clarification. I'm going to overrule that.
Certainly, the reason I felt that he was obstructing justice is while I had him outside next to my cruiser before placing him in, on multiple occasions, Mr. Peepee refused to be searched before being placed inside of the cruiser.
That's right.
At that point, due to the amount of sheer chaos we were having in the city, I felt it was necessary to charge him with obstruction of justice in order to speed up the process and get him down to Mission Row, where he would be processed.
Not illegal.
Was my client under arrest at the time he was refusing to be searched?
Yeah, I stopped. Nope.
Repeat that again.
Nope.
Was my
Nope.
client under arrest when he refused to be searched?
No, he was not.
Was he at that time detained?
When he refused to be searched?
Yes. Had he been told that he was being detained at that time?
Yes.
Okay, so why at that point does he need why do you need his permission to search him if he's being detained?
Run that by me again.
You hear that?
Why would you need his permission to search him if he was already being detained?
Bobby.
I don't.
Then why did you charge him with obstruction for refusing that request?
Damn!
Honestly, because while he was asking for a charge, I guess that would make sense of why he was being searched outside of the vehicle.
Oh.
I believe for two reasons, I guess. One is that refusing to be searched, I believe, is a way of obstructing your own justice in this situation. And two, he was going to be searched regardless. So.
Yeah, have a good one, Bobby.
Right.
Ooh, Bobby going down.
So I'd like to know why he was being forcibly detained at that point at Pillbox, if he was being treated as a victim.
Define
Objection
forcibly.
asked and answered.
Here's the thing. I'm actually curious about this myself, and I haven't had a direct answer that has.
Let's go!
It's been getting beaten around the bush, and I want the answer to this, so I'm gonna allow it. I'm gonna overrule that objection. I want to hear a clear answer to this question.
Let's kill him.
Because I am really curious myself.
You won't do it.
Can you answer? Can you ask the question again, Mr. Brown?
I'm not trying to go to jail.
Why at that point in time, as you said, he was being treated as a victim up to that point, why was he being forcibly detained and not allowed to leave?
Well, I mean, define forcibly detained.
Not allowed to leave.
Well, he was at a crime scene, and I wanted to get questions answered as to what his role was at that crime scene.
Okay, so when he was placed in your vehicle and searched outside a pillbox, by that point had he been GSR tested by the other officer?
Yes.
And do you know what the result of that GSR test was?
It was negative.
Boom!
Okay, so under these circumstances, why was he not simply allowed to meet you at Mission Row to answer questions with an attorney when he was available?
Well, I mean, for, I guess, lack of a better word, if he was in this situation involved and he got into a car with an attorney, I believe there could have been a possibility where evidence would have been moved along. In this situation, if he was involved in the crime scene, me not knowing what his role was certainly did not help the situation at all. But in general, if he got into a car with another person while he was detained or going down to meet an attorney, like I said, evidence could be dropped off that would help build the case against the suspects that were involved in the previous crime or the crime that ended where we found
Bob is getting fired.
So you were trying to force the situation to where he would be searched.
I was trying to just get answers out of him and why he was, found where he was. That was purely it.
Yeah.
Right. So you wanted to make sure that the situation proceeded to where you could search him, as you were suspicious, as you said, that he was involved. Is that correct?
I was
objection compound and leading.
Oh shit!
I can lead as much as I would like to.
I will sustain the compound, reword it.
So, as you said before, you were suspicious that my client was involved. Is that why you wanted to bring the situation to a search?
I was suspicious that something more was going on, yes. Whether he was involved or not, I would not have had enough, knowledge other than he was at the crime scene where we found him.
So, is there anything suspicious about riding a train, Mr. Smith?
Certainly not.
Okay. Is there anything suspicious about being in a train accident?
Oh shit!
No, I think that's just bad luck.
Is there anything illegal about riding a train?
No.
Is there anything illegal about suffering injuries in a tragic accident?
Yeah,
no, sir.
Fuck them motherfuckers.
Okay, so, forgive me, but what was so suspicious about my client, Mr. Lepipi?
Well, like I said, the biggest thing was that typically after a victim is found at a crime scene, or someone that was a victim of a major accident, would probably be the first person to go up and talk with the police. Refusing to talk to the police after you've suffered a major accident.
Your Honor, can I step in here for a second?
I would like to hear the answer to this question,
no,
Your Honor.
People are screaming behind me and I can't hear them. People keep fucking talking.
Whatever talking y'all doing back there, y'all need to shut.
What is he? We haven't.
Not you, Rami. It's other people. Shut
up. Okay. All right.
Wait, are you talking to us?
No, somebody's screaming about taking him off the stand. Just please stop talking.
Oh, that wasn't us.
You guys gotta keep it down on that side, honestly.
Oh, they know they're digging a hole. They know.
Sorry, Bron. Can you?
They fucking know. They're trying to get him off the stand.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I can't wait to kill.
Sorry.
What was so suspicious about
shit,
Mr.
they
Lepipi?
know.
And you were in the middle of saying something about.
They're trying to get Bobby off
usually
the
the victim
stand
is
because
the
he's
first person
fucking
to
him.
come up and talk to the police.
Yes, or at least I meant to more so say a victim is usually very talkative with the police.
Okay, so is defying the law of averages suspicious?
No, sir.
Is being unusual against the law?
Define that.
Is not living up to your expectations a crime, Mr. Smith?
Well,
Does the fact that my client
if it wasn't
didn't
my
want
father
to
would have
speak
arrested me
readily
at
to
some
law
point?
enforcement, does that make it illegal or suspicious?
No, sir. I mean, you could see it as suspicious. I mean, that's kind of what suspicion is, right?
Correct. But are you aware, Mr. Smith, that my client, either before or after being Mirandized, has no obligation to answer any of your questions and has every right to have an attorney present? Your suspicions were... I'll let you answer that question.
What was the question?
What is this?
The question was, are you aware that he's under no obligation to talk to you?
Alright, objection, argumentative. He's just badgering the witness.
I am not. I'm
He's
asking
trying to
a
get him
very
off.
simple
Mr.
question.
Brown, I get the point you're making. We all get the point you're making. We're not making any progress. Let's move it along.
All right. So, to sum it up, my client was suspicious for not wanting to talk to you immediately.
Objection. Is that a question?
That is a question.
Can you
Yes or
repeat
no
that
question?
question?
So to sum it up, my client was suspicious, in your opinion, for not readily being interviewed.
I
Correct.
feel like that was one of the things that made it suspicious. Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna allow that question.
Can you elaborate on another item that made it suspicious?
Confrontational, refusal of just generally helping a police investigation, demanding a lawyer. I mean,
Oh my god, I thought you heard you.
Demanding a
like
lawyer?
I said, just using my experience as a law enforcement officer, that's what I found suspicious at the time. At no point did I deny him a lawyer, if that's where that's going.
Oh yeah.
Again, I'm not sure what the question here is.
Well, the question is, the questions are arriving at the conclusion of whether or not you charged him with obstruction of justice because he was exercising his rights.
Objection,
that is not a question.
and confusion.
I'm answering
yeah.
his question, and I have nothing further.
Well, you answering that question, Mr. Braun, stricken from the record. Would the plaintiffs like to recross?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. Were you able to question the defendant at Pillbox when he was detained?
No.
Why not?
He requested a lawyer.
What do you do after someone requests a lawyer?
Typically we call up a lawyer and ask him to come and have a conversation with us. Or with
Okay,
the
at any
client.
point when someone is detained and requesting a lawyer, are you at that point supposed to let them go and make their way to Mission Row?
No.
What are you supposed to do?
What are we supposed to? Well, typically when they request a lawyer, it's usually after the arrest. With detainment proceedings, we would detain the suspect and once again transport them down to Mission Row, unless, of course, we're at a situation where the lawyer can meet us at a safe location, things of that nature. But I believe we have officers
I requested one before I
to our
was
discretion
detained.
on where it is safe for a lawyer to come meet us or when it is applicable. In this situation, for the most part, if we're detaining somebody, we would have them meet us at Mission Row, as it's the safest place for us to have a conversation with a lawyer and his client.
Okay, once you got to Mission Row and the lawyer arrived, were you able to then ask questions?
I had no further questions for the client at that time.
But you
Or,
were
sorry,
able
the
to ask if
suspect.
you had any.
Yes, I was able to.
Okay. If you were not planning on charging him with obstruction of justice, would you still have detained and taken him to Mission Row?
Yes.
Would you still have to search him to take him to Mission Row?
Larry asked this, he
Yes.
said no. What?
No further questions.
They said no on that earlier.
Mr. Braun? All right, I guess you got
I want to ask kind of
Wait,
like
what?
the inverse. of the question.
Objection? We redirected. Is he allowed to go back up?
Oh, no, he's not actually.
I'm sorry. Just wanted to make sure I'm not missing something.
Mr. Braun, if you have any other further questions for this witness, you can always add him to recall. Would you like to do that?
No, he did a good enough job the first time.
Alrighty. Plaintiffs?
Officer Lance Malton, Your Honor, to the stand.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Hello, sir. Will you please raise your left hand for me? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you sin?
I do.
Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
You may do your question.
Justin Bieber.
Okay, at what point did you get involved with the defendant?
Would have been at Pillbox after I had been treated for my injuries.
Okay, was he being compliant with Deputy Smith?
No.
Yabba dabba do.
How was he acting?
I would say belligerent, very loud and confrontational almost.
He even said I wasn't loud.
Okay, was he refusing to help the police in any way or form?
Yes.
He's
Was the
lying.
defendant refusing to answer any questions
Is this at
or
the hospital they're talking
or any
about?
questions to
Yeah.
the police with an ongoing investigation?
Oh, this guy's straight up lying.
Yes.
Find his fucking name.
Okay. Was he refusing to work with the police when it came to being searched?
Yes.
2 different stories,
What
Murph.
was he doing to refuse to work with them?
He was just being very verbal in his objections to not wanting to be searched.
Okay. What was he under arrest for?
I believe it would have been obstruction at that time.
Who's this guy?
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. Oh, can you hear me?
Eat him up, Murphy.
I can.
Eat him the
Okay,
fuck
fine,
up.
Okay. No further questions.
Mr. Braun?
Eat him up, baby.
I actually got nothing for this guy.
All right, you can step down.
What?
Murphy?
Murphy?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Prosecution, would you like to call any other witnesses?
We don't have any more witnesses, but can I make a statement before we rest?
My mouth's
I trust.
dry.
A statement.
Okay.
A statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah. I'd like to bring up a precedence case before we rest.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wow.
Okay, it was actually by Chief Justice Labar himself. I'd like to reference the Nino Chavez appeal from August 15th of this year. This court and the Chief Justice Labar himself set a precedent that if an individual is under arrest for any misdemeanor or felony, officers are well within their rights to searching. Just a felony. Officers are well within their rights to search
wasn't
and
arrested,
conduct
I
an
was detained.
investigation. Once that investigation is done, if the officer doesn't deem the charge worthy or lowers it, the individual can and will still be charged with any illegal items on their person in their immediate vicinity or their property, such as a car.
All right.
And but other than that, Your Honor, the prosecution rests.
I was detained, not arrested.
Alrighty.
No felony.
Mr. Braun, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call Mario Lepipi to the stand.
Oh yeah, baby, baby. Let me suck that baby, baby.
Mr. Lapat,
Yes, Your Honor.
step forward. Can you swear, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Will you please raise your left hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you sin?
I do.
Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
All right, Mr. Braun.
How are you doing today, Mr. Lepipi?
I'm doing fantastic.
So, Mr. Lepipi, what caused you to be on the train on the fateful day in question?
I take a part of my morning cruise or stroll, should I say? I
Mario,
walk down.
can you shout?
Yes, please
You hear me?
shout
You hear me?
back.
Okay. A part of my morning stroll that I take when I wake up, I usually go down to PDM. I like to see the cars that I could potentially own. I don't own any cars.
Objection, narrative. Can you
Oh.
please speed that up a little bit?
He's
Okay.
explaining
I mean,
why
I'm
he's on a
explaining.
train and where he was
Yeah,
going.
but I don't.
We
need
don't wanna hear about PDM.
I am agreeing that this whole response is in a narrative format. Can you please shorten it and make it a lot more simpler?
Yeah. I was taking the train to go to PDM, and that's usually what I do in the mornings when I wake up.
Okay. All right. So, do you live? Where do you live, Mr. Lepipi?
On this particular day, I was at the beach apartments.
About how far away was your apartment from the scene of the accident?
Pretty far, enough to where I have to use public transport to get there.
Okay, but there is a train station nearby your place of residence?
Yep, the North Rockford train station is the one I use. It's a kind of a routine.
Okay. Do you use the train to get into and from, work?
Not to work. Like I said, it's kind of a routine for me to visit the PDM in the morning, and
Sure.
use that train to get there. Go by Little Seoul and then get off at the Alta Street exit for the train.
Sure. Okay. Let's move on to the actual crash. I know it was a very difficult experience, but I'm hoping that you can kind of take us through how it occurred. So, I guess from when you knew there was going to be a crash, what exactly happened? Take us through it.
Can you reword? Sorry. Yeah.
You know, you're on the train, you're riding the train. At what point, you know, we're coming into the story, you are aware that there's going to be a crash. Tell us what happened from that moment.
Yeah, I believe the crash was between the Little Soul and the Altus exit. You know, we were going down the train, and ahead of me I saw cop cars placed in the railway. I believe 2 cars, 1 truck, and 1 Crown Vic. And we collided at full speed, and from there, I don't remember much after that. I ended up blacking out. I remember hearing explosions and people screaming, and then I woke up at the hospital.
Do you recall if the police vehicles were stationary or moving, Mr. Lapipi?
They were parked. They were parked in the trainway. Officers were outside their vehicles.
Okay. All right. So, do you remember much of what happened after the train struck the vehicles?
I remember EMS helping me up and taking me to the hospital, and that's pretty much all I remember.
Okay, so, you know, from the point of impact, you know, and the explosion, you just remember getting picked up and, you know, whisked away. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so at the hospital, at what point did law enforcement seek to question you?
Whenever I was, even before I got treated, Lauren came up and read me my rights, and then an officer, I don't know which one, GSR tested me when I was in the bed, and then Bobby came over and read me my rights as well after the GSR test, and then that's when I got treated and taken outside to have a conversation with Bobby.
Okay, so let me just clarify.
Yep.
You were read your rights before you were charged with obstruction of justice?
Yes.
Okay.
Twice.
Twice?
Yep.
And GSR tested?
Yep. Which came back negative.
Okay. Did the officers ask you any questions after you had asked for an attorney?
Yes. Bobby persisted to question me about why I was on the train and my involvement, which I did not speak to. I was not obliterate, or however I was described. I was just non-speaking on the subject until I got a lawyer.
Okay. So, working from the timeline where you were read your rights, right when you got at the hospital, and then charged with obstruction, you asked for a lawyer before the obstruction charge, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make that absolutely clear. So, Mr. Lapipi, when were you told that you were being charged with obstruction?
I was brought outside the hospital. You know, I was not irate. I was a little upset that I was getting charged for remaining silent and having that right. So, you know, like I said, I wasn't irate or anything like that. I was just a little upset, which I was expressing to Bobby that was obstruction of justice was not the way to go with that. That's, you know, it doesn't call for that, for me having the right to remain silent. And that's when it transpired that he charged me, arrested me, and then searched me.
Okay. Mr. Lapipi, are you aware of your Fourth Amendment rights?
I am not.
Okay. Are you generally aware of your rights against unreasonable search?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did you think in this situation that to search you would have been inappropriate?
With the charge that I was charged for, obstruction of justice, completely.
Okay. Is that why you were saying you did not want to be searched?
Exactly. There was, you know, the charge was not valid, and that's the reason why I was getting a little upset. Like I said, I never yelled, I never did anything like that. I just stuck to my rights of being able to remain silent.
And is that why you were adamant about requesting an attorney?
Yes.
So, I guess back to Mr. Smith's testimony about outside pillbox when he was actually searching you and putting you in the car. at that point you had been charged, and or you had been charged at that point, or after you were put in the vehicle you were charged?
I was charged outside of Pillbox before I was put into the vehicle.
Okay, so you were charged, then searched, then brought to Mission Row.
Correct.
Okay. And did Mr. Smith continue to question you on the way to Mission Row?
No, he did not.
Okay, so once you were under arrest, he did stop asking you questions.
After he searched me, he respected the right for me to remain silent.
Of course, because as he said, he didn't need to ask you any more questions once he had his evidence. So, did you get an attorney once you were at Mission Row?
I did.
Who was that attorney?
You were Murphy. I requested for them to call you. They said they called you twice, with no pickup, and it took me to call my personal phone to reach you, and which you immediately picked up.
Okay. All right, and once I arrived down there, what transpired?
When you arrived, you came downstairs. We had to talk about all what happened. The officer came back down, read me my charges, which were obstruction of justice was not involved with at that point. He took it off, and sent me off to jail for, I think, 20 to 30 months, whatever it was.
All right. Just need a moment. I just gotta think if I have any more questions at this time.
Big D, stop it.
Mr. Lapeep, just to confirm, do you own a vehicle?
I do
a
not.
car? All right. Very good, Mr. Lapeep. I have no further questions at this time.
Let's go, baby!
All right. One moment here. Sir, do you know what being detained for questioning means?
I do.
Okay, and what does it mean?
I don't know the specifics of it. I'm not a police officer, but
That's fine, just general, whatever, in your own words.
I mean, I know I'm not under arrest, and
Okay.
that's pretty much what I know.
Okay, so to you it means that you're not under arrest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does it mean that you're in police custody?
I don't know. Like I
Okay.
said, I'm not a police officer.
Okay, were you in handcuffs?
After I was charged for obstruction of justice, yes.
Okay, and he told you that you were being detained for questioning, correct?
I do not recall. I don't know if he specifically said that to me.
Okay. Were you searched after being detained and or handcuffed?
No. After I was being arrested, I got searched.
Okay, and what was in your pockets at the time?
I had a class 1, one bag of crack, and I believe 1 bottle of Oxy.
Okay. And you were put into a police vehicle, correct?
Yes, after the arrest happened outside of Pillbox before I was put in, and so was the search.
Were you taken to Mission Row?
I was.
Did Sergeant Smith drop the obstruction of justice charge against you?
He did.
Okay, and did he tell you about that he was doing that?
No. It's just when he was reading my charges, it was not on there.
Did you ask him why it was not on there?
Nope.
Did you ask your lawyer why it was not on there?
Yes, at a later time.
Okay, why didn't you ask him why it wasn't on there?
because I know it was not. I know it was a false charge. Like I know I shouldn't have been charged for that.
Okay, so you just assumed that wasn't supposed to be on there, which is why it wasn't on there.
I mean,
Mommy, stop it.
that's the reason why he took it off.
Okay.
I assume that he realized that he messed up by charging me with that, and he took it off for that reason.
Okay, so if it's in your belief that he messed up,
Pardon me, Katya. Mr. Rahman, I need you to be quiet in the galley, please.
I'm not even saying anything.
Thank you. My apologies, Your Honor.
all right. So if it was in your belief that Sergeant Smith had messed up, why did you not contest the other charges?
Well, sorry, I'm not understanding what you mean by that.
So if you realized that he messed up, as you said, why did you not say, hey, if you
This is the whole reason why I requested a lawyer.
Okay, so did Mr. Braun not ask that question?
Mr. Braun had a conversation with Bobby without me being there. I don't know what was discussed.
Okay. One moment here. I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, just for some clarification, were you aware that the train was going to crash before it crashed?
When we turned the corner in the train, I was able to see the cop cars placed in the way of the train, and it was probably 2 or 3 seconds that I knew it was going to happen.
Okay, so you didn't have any time to react. The train didn't have any time to react, rather.
No, the train was full speed at this point. It was in between the Lil Sol and Alta exit, so it was right in the middle where speed was at a maximum.
All right, 1 second here. No further questions.
Woo! Go, baby.
Do you guys yield, or you got more questions?
No further questions.
Send up with it.
Fuck yeah.
Mr. Brown, would you like to redirect any of those?
Yes.
Let's go,
I
baby.
just have 1 or 2 more questions. Mr. Lapeep.
Yes, sir.
Did we discuss in Mission Row the prospect of having a bench trial to contest these charges?
I believe we did at one point, but no one was available.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that my client did contest these charges from the start, and we did attempt to resolve this immediately, but we had to take it to appeal. I got nothing further.
All right, Mr. Brown, that last part's stricken off the record. You can step down from the stand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mind the glass.
Mr. Brown, do you have any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call Mr. Weideman to the stand.
Mr. Wyman, can you step up here?
Let's go, baby!
Absolutely, Your Honor. Absolutely, Your Honor.
Those kind of
Yeah, you want?
This is the best performance of Jesus Christ Superstar I ever watched.
You,
Let's
Mr.
go,
Rodman,
baby!
Will you please raise your left hand for me, sir?
Absolutely.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you sin?
I do.
Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
Good evening, Mr. Weideman. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Let's
Good.
go,
I want to thank you for being here. I only have a couple of questions
Your
for
Honor,
you.
Rami has been continuously disruptive during this entire case.
Robbie, I'm gonna hold you in contempt right now. You're hereby held in contempt of court.
Yes, sir.
He's not even doing nothing, you want.
I'm not even doing anything. I'm just
I'll wait
eating,
for
alright?
this to resolve.
I'm just eating, Your Honor.
Not
sorry,
only
I
if you
can't
wish
hear
to
the
be here,
questions,
Mr.
the
Rami,
answers.
after being held in contempt, if you want to be here, you are going to go stand over there on that side in that corner.
Yes, Your Honor. Alright. Right now?
Fucking judge is a piece of fucking
Quit talking to me
trash.
while you're eating. Go stand over there.
All right, all right.
Whenever you're ready.
On
Your
the
Honor.
other side of the barricade, Mr. Rami.
Over here. All right.
Yep, this way, Rami.
All right.
All right, Mr. Rami, you're hereby sentenced to 20 months at Bolingbrook State Penitentiary. Take him out
What
of
the
here.
fuck? What did I do?
Rami.
Southern,
Turn your face
what the
away,
fuck
Mr.
is
Rahman.
that?
This is racist. I
Injustice.
swear I didn't do anything. I swear. I'm just having a bag of chips. I swear.
Take him out of here.
Please, I swear I
Rahman.
won't do it again.
Take his
You
bag.
just got arrested for eating, Rami.
I'm just eating. Please.
$37 fine.
I swear
sir.
I'm just eating.
$37 fine.
Well, you'll have plenty of time to eat up at Bolingbrook, Mr. Rahman.
Is that a? Are you saying he's gonna be eating dick, sir?
All right, Mr. Chang, keep it down. You'll go next. Continue, Mr. Braun.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Weideman, I want to thank you for being here.
Go next.
I do only have a few questions for you, so I really do appreciate it. Are you familiar with Mr. Lapeep, my client?
I'm merely an acquaintance. I haven't interacted with him much in the city.
Okay. How do you know him?
Well, I mainly knew Mr. Lepipi, because every time when I open the shop at PDM, I see him coming in the morning and checking out cars.
Okay.
Let's go, baby!
And you, for
Alan!
clarification, are you the owner of PDM, Mr. Weideman?
I am. I'm the owner of Premium Deluxe Motorsports.
Now, are you able to verify that that my client does not own a vehicle from your dealership?
I would have to go through the records, but if it's requested, I could, yeah.
All right. Well, that won't be necessary. I did want to quickly verify that though, because he did mention it.
Purchase a vehicle.
Okay. And about how frequently does Mr. Lapeep visit the dealership to look at cars?
Quite often. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Quite often. Whenever I open the shop, he comes in the morning, checks out the cars. He asked me to bring out some high-end cars.
Objection. How is this relevant to a criminal appeal?
Yeah,
I'm establishing an alibi for why my client was on the train.
No one's contesting.
We are
Not at all.
Bro, I believe what she's alluding to is no one's contesting that Mr. LaPop was involved in any way.
Well, I mean, actually, that's what this is all about. Him being on a train is somehow suspicious, and I'm establishing an alibi and a legitimate reason for him being on that train that has nothing to do with the incident involving police cars blowing up and people going to jail for some other situation.
Mr. Braun, that was
This is a criminal
suspicious
defense,
to
is
the-
it not?
Mr. Braun, that was suspicious at the time to the officer. But as being as obstruction is not on the charge list, that would have no relevance to this whatsoever.
I fail to see the logic in that, but it's your courtroom, Your Honor.
I mean, I get what you're trying to do, but I'm telling you, Mr. Braun, it literally has no bearing whatsoever.
All right. Then I got nothing further.
Alright, am I good to go back?
This poor bastard fucking missed.
Unless they would like to redirect the one question that was asked that was relevant.
Alright.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down.
Oh my God, he missed
What
us!
is that sound?
I don't know. But
The fuck?
It's getting really annoying, whoever is keep doing this.
Oh my god.
What the hell?
It's
Hi,
just,
Vinny.
it's
I'm
just,
gonna go
someone's
eat
taking a
hot
pee.
pot.
Kissing.
Alright, brother. Tell
Love you, buddy.
What's his name? I said what's up.
Who's hiking?
Yep,
I'm
will
sorry, Alan.
do. No worries.
It's
Mr. Braun, you have other witnesses?
Yes, I would like to call Mr. Chang to the stand.
Mr. Chang,
And he
what
still
the
has
hell
that
are you wearing
pants
in my
on.
courtroom?
What's that, sir?
Ting has Rugrats underwear.
I can't hear you, Mr. Chang.
Dry cleaning's closed on Sundays. It's the only day I could go
Check
down
the
there.
back.
Couldn't wear the pants.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, but they were kind of had a little crust in the sun hours. So.
Is this a serious court case? Can we please have witnesses wear actual clothes?
I was just answering the fucking question, but okay.
My bladder is fucking full.
Mr. Chang, keep down the language. Mr. Chang, can you go put some pants on and come back here?
All right, can we take a 5-minute recess for that,
yeah,
if that's the case?
I'm gonna need a recess.
That's
Little
fine.
bathroom
5
break?
minutes recess.
Your Honor, may I make a
Lovely.
statement?
Must
I'm
need a
recording
luxury
tire.
transportation.
You can shut up, Big D. How about that?
I'm gonna
Yes,
need
Your
a
Honor.
police escort. Alright.
All right,
Mr.
here we
looking a
go.
lot better.
Huh. That's opinion based, but okay.
It's speculation.
All right, Mr. Chang, will you please raise your left hand for me, sir?
Do I not? Yes, sir.
Alrighty, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you sin?
Come on, baby,
Do I?
Chang.
Is that a yes, Mr. Chang?
I do.
Alrighty, Your Honor, this witness has been sworn in.
All right. Mr. Braun, you want to proceed?
Yes, I would.
Get it. Get it, baby, get it.
Hello, Mr. Chang. How are you doing? I like your shirt.
Ah, thank you.
So, Mr. Chang, I want to jump ahead from the train tunnels to the hospital. Mr. Chang, were you present at Pillbox Medical at the same time that my client was, Mr. Lapeet?
Yes, sir. Present same time.
Okay. And now, were you there yourself getting treatment, Mr. Chang?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Getting tweets.
All right. So while you were at Pillbox, at any point in time did you witness discussion occurring between Sergeant Smith and my client, Mr. Lapeet?
Oh, yeah. I witnessed that. Right there, hospital.
Okay. And what kind of exchange did you overhear between the two?
Well, something about construction and bumpers. Charging that one. Bad stuff.
Okay. Did Mr. Lapeep sound agitated to you?
Agitated? No. Mr. Wapip, that's a good guy right there. No.
Was he yelling at Sergeant Smith?
Yelling? No, he wasn't yelling. He was just talking. Just having a little talk.
Okay. At any point in time, did you hear Mr. Lapeep ask for an attorney?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He asked for attorney, lawyer, all that.
Okay. And what did Mr. Smith say?
Mr. Smith did not like that. I don't remember his exact words, but he did not like that.
Okay, Mr. Chang. And what was the reason you were in the hospital, Mr. Chang?
Because I got shot and bitten by dog.
That
Police dog.
sounds really painful.
Yeah.
And were you down in the train tunnels, just to take it back a little bit?
Yeah. I was the one that committed the crime. It was me. I did it.
Now, Mr. Chang, was my client, Mr. Lapeep, involved in your situation down there in the train tunnels?
No, I don't think so. Not to my awareness. I was down there wobbling and scowling.
Okay, Mr. Chang. Yeah, I think I've got nothing further from Mr. Chang. Just wanted to verify a few things, corroborate a few things. You are witness.
Thank you. Mr. Chang, you said that the defendant was a good guy. How long have you known the defendant?
One time.
Okay.
Come on, Chang.
Let me take a look at my notes here.
Come on, Chang. Come on, baby. Knock
About
it
how
out.
long would you say? Approximately.
Good. It's good times. Pretty
A
good.
A good amount of time?
Yeah,
Would you
it's
say
pretty
like
good.
like a few years? Few
Objection, relevance.
I'm gonna rule that. I'm allowed.
Okay, so a few years, few months.
For 10 years, 15 years.
Okay.
Come on,
And
Chang.
you were not aware that that the defendant was going to be on the train that day?
The fuck him is his grandmother?
Sorry, what?
Mr. Chang, answer the question.
No, I am not his grandmother.
Were you aware that the defendant was going to be on the train that day?
No, I am not his mother.
Your Honor.
Yes?
Objection. Request to treat him as hostile. He's clearly not complying.
Sustained.
There you go.
The answer's in there. It says no. You guys don't speak English?
But I do want to point out that since he's hostile, you're going to be able to lead. But you already allowed to lead.
Have you ever done crime with the defendant?
I'm not
Objection,
gonna let that happen in my
relevance.
courtroom.
Look
You
at
already
this.
know this.
You fucking snake. You look like a
Jesus
snake too with that haircut.
Okay, alright. No further questions.
You step down, Mr. Chang.
Ah, thank you.
Oh my god. Get fucking owned. Oh
That
my
was
I
so
want to make it known so everyone can hear me. Perfectly clear. At no time in any criminal trial is anyone's criminal record or criminal past ever to be brought up and used against them unless it is used to attack their character as a witness or it is to make a to show a pattern that affects of what they've done in the past to correlate with what they've done in the future.
Vinny's
That's
laughing.
the only time, and no other time beyond that. People in America get a fair trial. They are to be found innocent or guilty based off the crimes they may or may not have committed at that time and not before that time. Anyone's past will not be used against them to prove their guilt because we give people a fair trial here in America. All right. Would you have any other witnesses, Mr. Braun?
Your Honor, before continuing, can I request to impeach Mr. Chang as a witness for clear bias and
hostility?
Hostility?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You
All
wanna,
of Mr.
can
Chang's
I
testimony is stricken
impeach
from
these
the record.
bitches for being hoes, man?
Mr. Chang, I will hold you in contempt.
Oh, fuck
Mr. Braun,
yeah.
do you have any other witnesses?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
All right. Would the prosecution like to give their closing statement?
Yes, Your Honor. We'll talk a little bit slowly so that I don't cut out. I'm a little bit tired, so bear with me. Your Honor, full of the court, through submitted evidence of police report 11590, as well as the sworn testimony of the responding officers Sergeant Smith and Officer Malton, we
Can
have
you please
learned...
be quiet?
We have learned that with good faith and diligence, the defendant's health was prioritized in this situation above all, allowing him to be taken to Pillbox Medical for treatment of his injuries before they placed him into detainment and subsequently searched him as he was found injured on the scene of a shootout. Upon this detainment is when the defendant became obstructive, obnoxious, and non-compliant in full awareness that he was about to get caught red-handed in possession of illegal items. Due to the defendant's placement of the scene of the shootout, probable cause was established that a crime had been committed or that the defendant was a victim of a crime. Either way, this would have caused a detainment period to allow Sergeant Smith to safely ask questions to the defendant to find out if he was in any way involved in the crime. The defendant, upon learning of his detainment, became belligerent and demanded an attorney over and over again. Sergeant Smith said himself that if the defendant had simply calmed himself and let Sergeant Smith know that he was not a part of the crime and just happened to be in the subway that day, there would be no reason to take him to PD for questioning, which would mean that there would be no search. The defendant is the one who chose not to calm down. The defendant is the one who chose to raise his voice and become aggravated to the point of becoming dangerous to the public, which is why Sergeant Smith decided to take him to Mission Row in order to fulfill his request for a lawyer as well as question him. Almost done. We have also established today that no matter the situation, victim or criminal, if you are detained and being transported to a police station in a police vehicle, you must be searched. This is 100% standard procedure in this situation for officer safety. Regardless of being charged with obstruction of justice, regardless of being charged for anything, if you were detained for questioning, you must be searched before you enter a police vehicle. Because the defendant was detained for questioning regarding the incident that he was placed in, he had to be searched before entering the vehicle. It is as simple as that. Upon being searched, the defendant was found in possession of a 5-gram baggie of crack cocaine, 1 pill of 100 milligram Oxycontin, and a combat pistol that the defendant was not licensed to carry, as specifically notated in photographic evidence attached to Police Report 11590. It is through these establishments, Jesus, I can't even talk, that the defendant was lawfully searched, found in possession of these illegal items, and charged appropriately. The reason Smith dropped the obstruction of justice charge was out of good faith. After speaking with the defendant and his lawyer, he decided to give him a bit of a break. It was not because he believed the charge didn't stand, it's because he believed that he messed up or did something wrong. It is simply because he wanted to give the defendant a break. Sergeant Smith has nothing more and should have nothing more to answer to regarding that, because he did his job as he should. There are no blinders up. Sergeant Smith has nothing to hide. Your Honor, prosecution requests that you uphold these charges placed against the defendant, as he has been proven to be, without a shadow of a doubt, guilty of these crimes, and the police officers involved had every articulated probable cause and authority to search the defendant as he was being detained for questioning and suspected of a crime or being a victim to one. Not only that, but Mr. Braun has done nothing to prove his client innocent of these charges listed in the actual appeal, but instead has tried to spitefully spin a case against Sergeant Smith of doing his job with ill will. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Get him. Get him.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the court,
here we go.
Might I remind you that it is not my job here today to prove my client's innocence. It is, in fact, rather the prosecution's job to prove his guilt and to prove that things were done by the letter. In this case, what we have heard today in testimony and through evidence is that my client, Mr. LaPeep, on the day in question, was a passenger on a public train and collided with some vehicles that some police officers left across the train tracks. I believe it was 3 of them. And because of this, my client was detained without any sort of reasonable suspicion of unlawful actions on the part of my client that have not been elucidated in any way whatsoever in this courtroom. The fact that my client was detained to begin with has been backed by nothing. He was found at the scene of a train crash, which the police pretty much caused, and was detained for being in the wreckage. And because he exercised his right after he was Mirandized to have an attorney present, he was charged with obstruction of justice for not answering police
come on,
questions.
give me money!
The
Give me money!
Constitution has a lot to say about some of the testimony that has been given today by law enforcement. If, in fact, my client had tested GSR positive, certainly reasonable suspicion of an unlawful act would have justified the search of my client and the detention of my client. If police want to ask someone questions or canvass the scene of a crime, my client would have rights in that situation. In order to detain my client, there would need to be a qualifiable, reasonable suspicion that my client has committed an unlawful act in order to effect that detention and effect that search. My client was forced into a situation where he would have to be searched by a trumped-up charge that was given in response to my client using his rights as a citizen under the Constitution. There is no way in hell any of this should stand up given the testimony we've heard today, and I don't really need to ramble on and on about this. My client's rights were clearly violated in this situation, and the entire thing should be thrown out. It's an embarrassment.
All right, I'm going to put this court into recess. I'm going to go back and deliberate. I don't want any outbursts. I want y'all to keep it civil out here. If I have to come out in any fashion, I will be sending people to jail. I'll return shortly.
I have no idea what's about to happen.
That I would like to ask everybody to step out of the courtroom to allow the honors to deliberate without any interruptions. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm gonna put this court back into session. All right, so we went in the back. We deliberate on this.
Can you shout, sir?
I can. Everybody hear me better?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
All right. We did some talking on this, and I did some back and forth. Now, a lot of factors come up in this case. The first factor is would Mr. LaPop be guilty if he was charged of obstruction? No, nothing he did ever obstructed anything for the police.
Let's go, baby. Let's go, baby.
Simply not answering any questions the police ask you is not obstruction. You have the Fifth Amendment right to not answer anything. That's why you have the right. And whenever someone asks for an attorney, that question is over. And if you don't have enough to arrest the person after that questioning, then that's it. The situation's over. Unless you have enough PC to arrest, to convict, it's over. They ask for a lawyer. The line of questioning's over until the attorney's present. Now, if someone's detained. If someone's detained, they're asked questions where they're detained at. That's what a detention is. Detained people aren't transported and then questioned. Ooh! That's not a detainment. You don't transport detained people against their will. You see, if someone's detained and you want to question them in another location, you got to get permission from that person to move them to that location. You can't force them to. Your detainment is where you had them. That's not how that works. Yet, he was arrested. But what he was arrested for, he didn't commit. It was an invalid charge. At this time, Mr. LaPop's many constitutional rights were broken in this case. He was GSR tested. It came back negative. That killed the PC at all for any search. Could he have been Terry frisk? Sure. He still had enough PC to Terry frisk, but that's not what happened. He was searched after GSR came back negative to a call that was a shootout. I'm going to have all these charges dropped. Yes! Against Mr. LaPop. I'm going to have him reimbursed for all these charges. And this case is closed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Congratulations, Mr. LaPeep.
Thank you.
Well done.
Step up, you can step forward, I'll have you reimbursed.
I am going to bed. I know, I'm exhausted.
You did great.
And they stayed in.
Hell yeah, boys.
Vinny, stop saying Earth, Wind, and Fire, alright? We get it, you're fucking old.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Solar system, we find ourselves consumed and utterly mesmerized by the I don't it's like
we got to do those. We got to do that separately. So now that we've won on appeal, yeah.
Did you receive that?
Won on appeal, we should. Be able
I did.
To probably settle.
LeBar, you know if that carries over to the county?
Without having to go.
It will. It's a little bit of a delay.
It's
going to.
They might want to fight it, but we'll see. We'll see after the big conference. What?
Unless you have any questions, I guess I'm done with you.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for your time.
Woo! Easy clap, Mario.
Hey,
Congratulations.
Thank you, boys. Thank you guys for being here.
How much money did you get?
All right, so I'm gonna try to get the civil case filed before the big conference if I can. I'm not gonna promise that, but it will get filed, and hopefully we'll get a settlement without having to repeat this whole thing again. Now that unequivocally we won, so we should be able to get you some cash.
So you think you can file for that on the government website, and nothing will have to be done, and we'll just receive a settlement?
Based on the decision here, it will be a lot easier for us to get a settlement on that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Which I would prefer. I hate having to go through everything twice. When I had the big cases for these guys, we had to come in here and pretty much try the same thing like 2 or 3 times. It gets a little old.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my God!
So since so much of the ground we'd be covering in court would be the same,
Let's get you
I'm
paid for
prepared to just try to work out a settlement.
Do you
So we'll come up
do you
with a
know what that
number.
settlement might be, or what we're asking
Well,
for?
we're gonna come up with a number. Like, what's
Yes,
the
sir.
least
Let us
you're
know.
willing to take in settlement versus what you would want to
Always
pursue
them high
if you
ones,
went to court.
baby. What you mean?
You're welcome.
So
I mean,
just have a think about it. Have a think about it. I would say, based on the same kind of civil suit that Chang and Vinny won on, they both won 100K. So that's kind of the
Yeah.
Everything's kind of.
But I mean, like 100K minimum for sure.
yeah. I would say we probably.
But I mean,
go for
this.
like
I mean, we won
2,
this
and then
pretty.
we'll
We
probably
won
come
this
up
pretty
with one.
heavily. So I mean, if you can push for
Is he even
more,
around?
do it, Murphy.
Yeah. We'll probably go for like 150 or 2, and we'll probably come out of it with one. Maybe like 75 if we settle, which is fine.
200 sounds great. Even 75.
For being available. Appreciate it.
But
Take
yeah,
it easy, Mario. Slow your fucking horses.
I am fully hard right now.
Have a
All
good
right.
one, Kyle.
How hard are you?
I mean, we've
I'm
got
hard
such
as
a
a
good
rock.
case. We could ask for a lot.
Like how
most
hard?
likely.
You want to touch it?
Have a good one,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Brown.
yeah. That's my point. Why I was asking.
What'd you
Did
do?
you just call me?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I think Mr. Braun's limited
Only
on
like
his
2
time.
inches.
So Murph, what do you think? Like, what are you gonna ask for?
If we
Sorry.
make it quick.
I'm thinking, 152, and we
Okay.
go from there.
Okay,
It's always
perfect,
good
Murph.
to go high,
Just
and then
don't worry
they
about
come
the
down. The
amount. I
judge
just gotta
decides what's
lie.
reasonable.
All right, just let me know.
All right, we'll do. Congratulations.
Thank you,
I tell you
Murphy.
how much
You
I
are
have
a
for
fucking
Kylie's
legend,
pro
my
life.
friend.
I
I
it's good to be back.
appreciate you taking time out of your day and everything to be here for me.
Oh, absolutely. No problem. It's what I do.
Perfect. Woo!
Another win for Murphy.
150 to 200K, boys. You fucking heard it. Let's go.
What's your track record at, Murphy?